of the Google Gemini system. So I'll do Joe introductions and get started whilst we're waiting. My name is Nick Cook. I was a SCITS trainee in 2019. I looked 21 on that. And I quit 22. And let's get team Betty. And I get trained to teach computer science, having been with computer engineering past. And my mentor was Mr. Andrew Woods, who also teaches computer science, just started the A level. And so we do the A level to freelance as well as the other teaching. And then about 18 months ago, I got appointed as CD learning consultant with special responsibilities for digital technologies. But obviously, the really, really exciting stuff about that is anything to do with artificial intelligence. And so Andrew and I work together just looking at artificial intelligence, how we can embed it into teaching practice, where it could be useful, and where we need to be maybe a little careful of it, and to tread carefully. So Andrew's going to start and introduce the area, and then we're going to sort of box and cox it trees.
Thank you. Thanks, Nick. So, just to go through, so you've probably seen bits of AI in the news and different bits. You might have experimented a bit yourself, which is great. It's gone through a couple of phases, and it has moved really, really quickly. So, just want to give you a quick history tour of it since 2022, because that really sets the scene for how AI's even moved on a lot since what it could do 2 years ago, when it was really exciting. So, in late 2022, we got 3 really brand new models that came out that were called ChatGPT-3, Gemini 1, and Claude 2. And these things you could talk to and give requests. They would give you really detailed and accurate text prompts in response. It was really useful at composing emails where you just want to give a quick response to someone, when you wanted to write short documents, moderately sized essays, or if you're a student, if you wanted to plagiarize an essay, it was quite handy for them as well, unfortunately. The summarizing key information and content. But it's moved on even since then. And what we started to see late last year was what are called retrieval augmented generation, or RAG models. And the key difference here, what makes a RAG model, Nick's now going to show you how RAG's really useful, is what it can do as well is it's not just working on the knowledge it's being trained on. AI being trained on a lot of different knowledge, a lot of information. But what RAG can do is you can give it vast amount of your own text, your own materials, and your own resources, and it can work and do things with that. And that's what makes this new field of AI that we've really seen since late last year into early 2025 really exciting, because that's allowed us very innovative products and new methods of teaching and learning to start to emerge. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to look at that right now. So I'm going to hand it over to Nick, who's going to talk a little bit now about prompting.
Okay, so the key to using these large language models is to give it as much information and context and expectation as possible. And by and large, it's pretty true to say you can't give it too much information. And the danger is that you can get a reasonable answer out of a large language model just by typing something really, really simple. So, for example, I could just type a simple prompt. What were the reasons for the Battle of Hastings, for example? Question mark. And you will get, actually, it'll be easy to be detailed, answer to that. Certainly good enough for a year 7 essay. And that's fine. But in order to get the very best and the most specific and most useful answers out of these models, you need to give it a number of things. The first is to give it the role. Who do you expect it to be? Who is it acting as? So if I'm expecting it to do work for me, I will say, you are an expert teacher in computer science with a particular specialism in whatever topic I want to deal with at the moment. And you have had X years industry experience. Now, I can pick myself up. You know, I can invent most of this, and typically do. So, but you give it a role. Who's it being? Who's it playing? Then you give it the task. What is it exactly you want it to do? It's a bit like, tell your students. The more precise you can be to your students about what you want them to do, the better they're going to do the task. So the more precise you can be to the large language model, the better the result you will get. So I want you to write out a 3,000-word essay on yada, 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 paying special attention to do, and including references to whatever. Make it as detailed as possible. Instructions, probably partly covered. Tell it what you want it, what you expect it to give you. Okay? And this could be in terms of what sort of tone do you want it to be, formal or informal, or reading age is it aimed at? And this can be really good, actually, if you want to summarize a text or rephrase a text and change the reading age, move the reading age down to make it more accessible. You could plug it in, change this for reading age 11 to 12. Given the instructions and what it's supposed to look like, what is it you want to get out? The success criteria. Okay? You also can further improve it by references, and this is where the RAG model comes in. You can start including web references, you can load up your own documents and get in more and more context. The more context you can give it, the better it will be. You can evaluate it. Once it's come back with an answer, you can then tell it whether you like the answer or not. Was that good? Was it not? It will learn. And that means that we can iterate. Okay, don't forget that these are called chatbots, which means it's an interactive process and an iterative process. So when I'm building this up, I will typically do these as separate posts, rather than do them all in one. Do them as separate posts. Okay? Overall, I'm going to be asking you to do such and such. I will first provide you with the role, then I will instruct you with the task, then I'll give you some specific instructions on how to carry out the task, and then I will set my success criteria. Wait for me to say no before you produce it. And you do that, you'll come back with friendly, okay, great, thank you, Nick. I'm really pleased to help you with this sort of nonsense. And then you produce it. You can add the references. You evaluate. Remember, you are still responsible for whatever you use. It's still your work. And AIs sometimes produce wrong results. Sometimes they make things up. Sometimes they just don't get it quite right because they're not trained as teachers the way that we are. So you've got to evaluate it and help it learn the best way of doing things. And if you don't like the answer first time, go again. Try again. Refine it. You can always build it. So that's the secret to good prompt building. Lots of little bits. Be specific. Provide context. Provide role. Tell it exactly what you want it to do. And go again and again until you get the results you want.
Okay. So we're going to look a little bit today at there's lots of different AI tools. We're going to look today particularly around Gemini. And there's different ways. You can just go to the Gemini website. But I'm going to just go into a little bit the depth of one of the more powerful ways you can access Gemini, which is Google's AI tool, which is aistudio.google.com, which is the website to go to. Now, it is a little bit technical, but there are some options you can just ignore until you know what it does and how it goes. So the first time you go on, it'll start asking you about this and getting an API. You can just close that, it's not needed, and just accept at the top that it'll use some to analyze traffic. That's fine. You can just accept that. Now, at this point, I've got the basic page of Google AI Studio, but you'll see this bit's worth looking at, model. And you'll see there's lots of different models. Now, these are all those different people, AI bots, AI chatbots that you can pick for particular purposes. Flash, as its name suggests, is good for quick, speedy responses. So it's designed to give you really quick things. Flashlight Preview is the most experimental version of that. And these things have been developed by Google, new models coming out monthly. To get a new model out at the start of each month. So if you use the preview version, they tend to be a little bit better and a bit smarter. But there is a risk. They're experimental. They aren't quite all the way there yet, so they can make mistakes. You'll notice that there's a version, though, called Pro. Pro is really good deep thinking. So it won't just try to give you a quick response. What Pro has been designed to do is to say, "Do you know what? I might take 3 minutes to give you an answer back, but you know what you're going to get back is going to be a high quality response." So if you're thinking, "Oh, actually, I want this to really go away, think and make a really in-depth answer," like almost the equivalent of writing a book or doing a very complex data processing activity, Pro is brilliant for that. It'll do it. The next one is what's called Flash Thinking. This one's quite useful as well. The last one, Flash Thinking, the difference is it's just a version of Flash, but it explains its thought process. Sometimes when you use an AI, you'll get a response back and you'll think, "Well, this is rubbish. This isn't what I asked for." But what Flash Thinking will do is it'll actually tell you as it gives the response with little comments on the side. "I did that because of that. I did that because I thought that." And then you can unpick it. So if it's done something wrong, you can say, "Oh, actually, you did that wrong because you gave me too much information on this. I want less. I want more information on that." And then you can see how to adjust it. So there are different models, but just for the first kind of looking at different models and what we're going to look at, for the first example I'm going to take you through now, we're only going to use the Flash model because people sometimes think, "Oh, Flash, that must be dead rubbish and it can't do it." Well, actually, quite well. You can do quite a few things. So as Nick was talking about just a second ago, pros, absolutely the biggest thing that make AI effective. How you tell it to do a job. It's just like when you're teaching a student. The clearer you are with an instruction, the more you break it down, the easier the student finds the task. Usually 9 times out of 10, when you give students an activity, we've all been there, and to do something completely mad, you look at it and go, "Oh, I didn't explain my copy and all of that." It's the same with AI. It is exactly the same. So this is a prompt which I've built, and I've gone through like stages of changing this prompt and doing it along a lot of different times. But what this will do is it will produce exam papers based on previous exam papers. So it will produce brand new questions, never been seen before exam papers. So if you want to do an assessment with students, really powerful because they can't have Googled the exam paper the night before, or they're not betting, "Oh, so I did pick 2014 paper," or "Miss always picks a paper from 2 years ago." You know it's going to be brand new. Now, the prompt is a little bit detailed and technical, but once I've written it, you can just copy and paste it and use it. And that's the great thing. If you search online, you'll find tons of these out. So this is one which I've written, which is these are papers and mark schemes for computer science for A-level papers. So I've told it what I'm giving it. Using the past papers, produce a formatted question paper and mark scheme. So I'm telling it I want it formatted. I don't just want some random questions. I want it formatted. It must follow the same structure as these papers, so it must be the same structure. Produce 2 outputs. So I'm saying I want you to now give me 2 things. Imagine I was explaining it to someone who really wanted precise instructions. I've written here fully formatted exam paper. Now, don't worry about that term. That is a technical term if you're not computer scientist, but that just essentially needs to format it, laid out, formatted with paragraph images, things like that. So it can be useful to say do that. Do not include images. So I don't want images, don't need it to start doing that because I don't know what it's going to hallucinate, take forever, create pictures. It's quite slow. A fully formatted mark scheme, again, that just means markup language format, so it's really clear. It must contain the same number of questions as these papers and be of the same length. Once I've written that prompt, I just know it works. So it's a good one. So you can keep this one. It's a really useful one to be able to use. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go to AI Studio, which is just aistudio.google.com. And I'm just going to paste that prompt into the chat at the bottom. So don't worry about all these different things it asked you. All we're interested in is this chat box here. What I'm going to do now is press the plus button, which now allows me to upload files. And what I've done, I've just put into a normal Windows folder these exam papers. If the folders are on Google Drive, you can just click My Drive and you can upload them straight from Google Drive. It doesn't matter which one you upload from. So I'm just going to go Upload. I'm going to go to where I've saved those papers, but they could be anywhere. And I'm going to select them and I'm going to press Open. Now, this will take just a teeny amount of time, so I'm going to explain what it's doing. As I do this, you'll see what's known as the token count goes up. The token count is essentially like the limit on how much you put it up. So 1 million tokens is 1 million thinking cycles, like thought processing has to go through. The reason there's a limit there is it doesn't like you uploading thousands of books because it's going to overload the system. So it's a bit of like rationing so that you're not using too much. But to get that over 1 million takes quite a lot of work. So you have to do a lot of different, a lot of content to go for 1 million. So those exam papers, that's 4 years of exam papers, is only 50,000. But if you see this turns red, that just means you put too much information into the system. It's going to overload it. It's not going to be able to cope with that, largely because it's not ready for it. So we just put that on, we leave that to run, and then we press the run button. Now, this isn't going to be instant. It'll take about 2 days. But what it's doing as we leave this to run is it's reading all the exam papers, and in its own thought process, it's thinking, right, that's a 12 marker, that's a 9 marker, that's a 3 marker, that's that. It's categorizing them, and it's coming up and working out the structure. It'll be working out patterns in how the exam papers are structured that we probably take for granted, but it's now learning it as if it's doing it for the first time. And it's gone through, and it's now produced it. So it's managed to produce an exam paper within that time. So it's actually, you'll see a lot of code coming out that can intimidate people. It is a new technology, and it does do things like this, which, you know, in future won't look as scary. But what you will see as soon as we just let it finish is what it's done once it's got to the bottom. And it's done that. If you just let it go, it does take a bit of time to do. So we just need to be a little bit patient with it, because this is how long it takes to run. It's written out 2 documents. There we go. An exam paper and a mark scheme. Now you'll see that it's got a little download button here. You can download the file to. So you can ignore the code, and it will have produced 2 different documents. As I asked it, please could you produce me 2. So what I'm going to do now, it's going to go up a little bit. I'm going to download the first file. So that's me. There we go. I just open that, and it has produced me an exam paper. Now, if that doesn't, it hasn't given me spaces, place to the students, right? I could give it better instruction, like say, oh, you didn't give me space for the students to write, you didn't do it. But essentially, I've managed to get a pretty good approximation of an exam paper. And in addition to that, when I download this one, I'll have through the mark scheme as well, so I can go through and mark it. Now, if the prompt wasn't perfect, and I thought, actually, I want something a little bit more detailed, I can start to look at the models that I use. So if I just copy this, and I say it again, and I say, well, actually, I think there should be space for the students to write. So we're going to go straight to the bottom of this. Put it in. There's that in. And produce a formatted question paper in WireSki. Just make sure there's somewhere for the students to write, because I want it on it.
Do you have to write the whole thing on again? So you could just add that additional comment part.
I could do if I wanted to. That will probably work, but sometimes it's nice just to use paste it again. It'll still work with it. Yeah. Make sure there is somewhere for the students. Stop that. Make sure there's somewhere for the students to write. And if I thought Flash didn't do a great job, I can always move. I'm just going to copy out of the clipboard, so I'm going to copy that pros. So, cool. And I couldn't say, actually, I'm going to change from Flash and I'm going to use Pro. Pro is usually might do a slightly better job, so we switch it to Pro and then run that again.
You didn't have to. So would that take your previous uploads?
Oh, yeah. It'll still remember it. Yeah, it's going through it now, and it'll run through that. And then once it's gone through, it will churn out 2 better exam papers, so come up with 2 better ones that it'll do. So that's just kind of how you've got to kind of navigate and use it. If Flash should do the job great, refine the instruction, then maybe consider whether you move to the raw.
Yeah. Does it come up with the same questions, or does it have different questions it didn't have in the previous exam?
Brand new ones, so it won't be the same question. So the questions that are here on this paper, we'll bring this one up now, are not ones that are in any previous paper. They might be similar, they might have some similarity, but because it's read enough of them, it's hard to work out what's going to be asked. So the questions that it generates and the exam papers that it generates and the questions are all completely brand new. And it is that. Sometimes it can be a little bit slow, a bit janky. So this one seems to have popped up a bit. If it does that, just refresh the web page, just comes back to life. So it is quite an experimental thing. So you do have to be a little bit patient and resilient with it. So sometimes if it locks up a little bit like that, just refresh the web page and then have another go through doing it. And it should be absolutely fine. So I've got files back up, gone with the core model, and then let's just let that upload again. Then run one more times and it'll work. So it's just worth being patient. It does sometimes get a little bit locked up like you do there. It does get a bit slow, just redo it. But what it produces now will take a bit longer. You'll see that the Pro model isn't quite as quick as Flash, so you've got to be a bit more patient with it. But as it's running and as you've got through it, it will devise now in about, we'll say about 2 minutes, but it will produce a few new exam patterns. So please let that just run for a second.
I was doing it without putting multiple beepers on there. So it says swatty, trick 30 to trick 35 passing.
No. So yes, it's your carbon. What are these see? Yeah, this is where a write sub comes into it. So when you upload the fast sheet, what it's doing is it's reading through all the content set. If you say look at the exam papers, it might have some of them in its memory, but you don't know if it's going to be there or not. And when it does have modes now where you can tell it to go and search the internet and it's doing it, but it doesn't, when it looks at it, it doesn't look at the whole internet. It doesn't look at the whole. It starts to just look at a couple of bits and a few bits and a few links and it kind of cheats. If you put the data up now, it's spending and it will spend a good few minutes because our first go was a bit too quick with Flash. I thought it might work, but it was a bit too quick. But it's now deep diving and really reading it on the side of us, isn't it? So that's a weird.
Thanks, ask for you and for the so it's questions.
It's just doing the same. Whereas if you do it as a HTML, you can download the file, which makes it really useful. So you can press the download button. If you've got a big download button, you can print that off much more easily. Whereas if you say just put it into text, it will just start to just dump it down. So once after it this way, even though to put this code, it's doing a much better job this time writing this one. It's
The point is that HTML is 40. So if it comes out the formatted document, you can read that or you can read that and get all the formatting with it.
And in science, we would have to, for it to look like an actual exam paper, we'd have to have things like graphs and apparatus and experimental procedures and things like that.
Yep.
You know, you wrote don't include images.
Yep.
Would we be able to do something similar?
You could try it.
Right.
I would say I have a few times, and sometimes it's worked really well, and sometimes it hasn't. So this is this is what it's done in Pro. So it's now put the writing spaces in and made it look more like that. We're very similar. We have graphs, we have things in the subjects that we teach.
Yeah.
But it does become a bit of a bit difficult for it to render some of them. Sometimes it does it really well. Sometimes it doesn't. That's what I said. That's how to where the technology's at. So for some bits like that, it might be worth thinking the technology will get there, but it's not quite there. But this now is a full exam paper. If I go print that, that's an exam paper, completely unique questions that has never been seen before that matches the exact structure of a A-level.
Could we use it to randomly select questions from a broad range of papers and come up with a paper that's of similar structure?
Yeah, you can do that. Or ones from scratch, whatever you give the instruction to do, which I think is a good time to move to Paraphors. What is where you go? CF. So if you would like to, so what we'd say is just have a go now. Put the links at the bottom. If you need exam papers in a subject, I'll put a link to revisionworld.com. That's got all high-linked exam questions for every A-level and GCSE spec that's out there. So it's a previous way to get past cakes if you've not used it before. And aistudio.google.com is what we've been using that to do it. So I'll put the prompt there so that you can use it. But what I thought might be a nice thing to do is just spend 5 minutes, have a go, see if you can get it to produce an exam paper for your subject. She. Be such do that. She's nice here, but it does take pretty fast.
It's the that you could certify for habit of partial for and just be needs there's a marrow, 3-4 mana, pick the zil, other things as well.
So what I'm going to do now is show AI Studio Live. So one of the options you'll see in AI Studios, was this one is this one, which is stream real time. And what this is it has 2 options. I can either share my screen or share my webcam. Now, I'm going to go like naughty bits to get the points off, but once I show you the kind of things that it can do, Mark can kind of get the imagination fire of the things that this kid going to do. So I'm going to click Show Gemini, and I'm just going to give it access to the webcam, and I'm going to press Allow. So hopefully now it's got a webcam that it can see. It is one of them horrible you have to focus yourself webcams, so quite work out what's going on in the room. There we go. So I'll go across. So I'm just going to speak and say, Gemini, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. It looks like you're in a classroom with other people. And you'll have their laptops, so
Okay, can you describe the scene that you can see?
I see a group of people sitting at desks in a classroom. Most of them have laptops open in front of them, and they all appear to be engaged in some sort of activity. There is also a bulletin board on the back wall of the classroom. Is there anything else you'd like me to notice?
So from that view, it's very good at being able to quickly comprehend what's going on around there and understand its situation. And from an knowledge view, it's real fun. But actually, in terms of being able to do work, it can help a lot, because sometimes we just sat doing a job and we think, there's probably a quicker way of doing this, probably an easier way of doing this. It could probably be automated. And this could be really quite effective for it. So I don't have to just share my webcam. I can share my screen instead. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to click Share My Screen. And I can choose it. It's just like when you use Google Meet. I'm going to click Share My Entire Screen. And I'm going to do that. Now, just a quick word of caution. This does mean that an AI assistant is looking at everything that's on your screen. So in terms of confidential emails, data it's a bit sensitive, I'd recommend steering clear of that for now. It's a bit unclear how much this data is being used. According to Google, it won't stop streaming. Well, what is this? We don't need this bit done. We go back with. But in terms of data protection, they say, well, actually, you won't use stuff to train it. But realistically, you are uploading and sharing the data with a system, which is a bit unclear how it's processing it. So I would just be cautious when you're using it.
Sorry, Andrew, so your emails are open, but not on the screen.
Can't see it. You can only see what's on your screen. So I'd just say keep off confidential emails, do things like that. Just something in there that you don't want to say. So it should be a bit cautious. I think it'll get a bit clearer and a bit easier with data protection over time, but it's a very new technology, so just worth being careful. So at the minute, I don't want to share me. I want to share my screen, sorry. So I'll just go to Stream Real Time, share my screen, and I pick, do I want to share a tab in Chrome? Again, if you share a tab, there's no risks. It's just that tab. A week do it on my entire screen. In this case, I'm just going to share the spreadsheet. And I'm going to write in this spreadsheet, apples, pears, and oranges. And if you imagine this is a long list,
The user is creating a list of fruits in a Google
choose Gemini, that's fine. That's probably what you're going to do. It will respond to biotics, yeah. So it will pick up on cues. And it's quite good at working out actually. No, right now, Gemini, don't speak till I tell you, okay?
Okay, I understand.
And it
I'll wait for you to tell me to speak.
So it's quite good. Again, you can't offend it. So hopefully you can't, and it'll do, and it'll see that sort of thing. But it's very natural in terms of interaction. So, Jen, I'm okay if you to speak now. Now, what I want to do is I want to count how many apples are in this list, but I don't know how to use a spreadsheet. Could you tell me what I should be doing?
You're asking how to count the number of apples in the list in your spreadsheet. I can help with that, but first, could you clarify if you want me to just give you the count, or if you also need me to explain how to do it using spreadsheet tools?
Well, I'm learning it for the first time, so I appreciate it if you can teach me how to do it.
Okay, I understand. You'd like me to explain how to count the number of apples using the spreadsheet, as you're learning how to use it for the first time. I can help with that. To count how many times apples appears in your list, you can use the COUNTIF function. Would you like me to walk you through that?
Yeah, talk me through stage by stage. I've never done it before.
Okay, let's start with the first step. First, click on an empty cell in your spreadsheet where you'd like the count to appear. For example, you could use cell C1. Have you done that yet?
Yeah, I'll click on C1.
Great. Now that C1 is selected, type the following into the cell, equals COUNTIF, a 1, base 6, apples. Be sure to include the equal sign and the quotation marks around apples. Once you've typed this, press enter.
Oh, that doesn't seem to work. What mistake I made?
I see the problem. The formula you entered is correct, but the result it's giving you is not the expected one. I think the problem is that the spreadsheet is not auto-updating after you enter the formula. Try refreshing the page. If you're still getting 0 as a result, tell me, and we'll try to figure it out.
Yeah, I'm still getting 0. Is there a mistake I've made in that formula?
Ah, I see. It seems I made a mistake. The formula itself is correct, but it's giving a 0 because there's an inconsistency in the capitalization of the text. The word apples in the formula has a capital A, but the word apples in the sheet has a lowercase a. Try changing apples to apple.
No, I don't think that's right. I think it was a quotation marks. Wasn't it?
You're right, I apologize for that mistake. It seems the issue was with the quotation marks. Let's try this again. Replace the double quotation marks in the formula with single quotation marks.
Yeah, it's some. That's interesting because I've not had it make a mistake. But usually it's quite good at picking up bits like that. But usually with a lot of tasks, it can talk you through how to do it. So it got the majority right. Did actually tell me 3 quotation marks. I slept them out or you pick it up. But it's quite good being able to explain how to do certain things. So it's very easy to teach me a formula I didn't know and how to write it up. And that can be quite useful if you're doing like data tasks or something, which again, not with confidential information. But if you do the task where you're trying to figure out how to do something and you're a little bit stuck, you can just start straight real time, share your screen and ask it, and it built the hours and really complex up.
Yeah, just imagine I had lots of data on a sheet. So say 250 pupils, but they weren't on the screen and the 50 of them were. Would it look then a whole?
No, you'd have to scroll it and say, I'm scrolling down now and pull it through. If you did it with it, would do it. It's almost like imagine someone stood next to you watching your screen. It can't see if you're on the screen. It's like someone stood over just talking and giving advice. The next generation of this is actually the startup that's working on this where it'll actually control the computer. So it'll actually do what you tell it to do, which is like the next stage of browser use. She's going out. It's like
They could presumably load the spreadsheets up.
yes,
And get Gemini Live. So, right, I've loaded the spreadsheets up. Could you have a look at it and analyze the data for me?
That's got student name or something.
indeed. So I certainly thought this way. Yeah, that's the key thing. So if you've got it, this was like a list of names, right click, hide names, because that is potentially a data actual risk in a minute. Google are existing is not a risk, but the policy we're putting in place is that having analysed it a bit is for the time being, we're going to assume it is a risk because it's not fully clear where this data resides after it's sent in Gemini, because it actually is video recording everything you put up and being saved in the AI studio. So until that policy improves, we're going to have to say it's do. But yeah, if there's confidential information, just right click and hide that column. But you should still be able to do the analysis without the names visible. And then once you turn it off, just don't hide it. That is, it can pretty much explain how I do lots of things. And it isn't just spreadsheets. Tools of weird bits with software. Bromcom, I needed to know how to do it. And it said, oh, actually, this is how you do this report, Bromcom. There's this option, didn't know it existed. It's quite good at explaining as you're doing things how to build something, and that's just one use. Very useful for a lot of different tasks. Nick's going to look now, we'll look at StreamYard tab, at how it could help improve feedback flow with shoots.
Okay, so one of the things that takes up our time as teachers most is marking. And a couple of years ago, I got given a BTEC teach, and I don't know what anybody else in BTEC feels, but I described it as walking in a foggy landscape because there is so little detail about what constitutes a pass or a merit or a fail. And I find it really difficult. I still find it really difficult. One of the things AI can help with is you can give it lots of examples, you can give lots of materials, and then it can give you a steer. Again, it's still you marking it. You are the one allocating the mark. You have to take responsibility for it. But it can really help just sort of get you into the mind frame. I find this helpful for BTEC assignments. I find it helpful for 9 and 12 markers. Bear in mind, to be scientists, we hate writing. Okay, anything more than a 6-mark person is painting the next class, or said, why would you? Just coded. One of the things it is actually very good at. It can save time in the marking, although sometimes you got to go through it anyway. But what it is very good at is producing really good quality feedback. Certainly more and more detailed than I would ever have time to type out for myself. So let me show you how I've done this. And this is an upgrade to here we go. So this is an upgrade to what I did. As you've seen, I've got 3 videos on the Learning Center, which are now slightly obsolete, frustrating this job. But this is an upgrade on one of the videos that I put out. So this is using AI Studio, and again, pay attention to the boxes in blue. These are the prompts that I'm giving AI Studio to work with. You are an expert teacher of the Pearson Level 3 BTEC Business Qualification. That allows it to access its sort of large language model data. It will have heard about this. It's in there somewhere. It may have access to the links to the sites, that kind of stuff, to other stuff that represents it. You are also an expert event manager, because I'm teaching the event management module. Having managed a number of successful events and small gatherings involving a few people, up to national conferences with 250 delegates. That bit actually is true, but I could expand it and talk about worldwide domination. Okay, so you then get, now, I always say you could tell Americans have heard this. It's good boys, TikTok. So you have lots and lots of hooray and this and great, this and this wonderful, and frankly, I'm not interested. But anyway, that's all there, so that all comes out. And so that was my first prompt, just setting the scene. And then, right, okay, actually, then I can clarify. Okay, same as what Andrew was saying was like, okay, let's just clarify what we're doing. Actually, what I want you to do is to mark some assignments for the teachers. The prompt I gave it made it think, oh, I'm teaching this module. I wish. But instead, I want it to mark some assignments. So I've now described the specification, I've described the sort of things, you know, the equivalents, all the stuff that I've been told, and in detail, what the whole unit comprises of. Okay, so that's gone the context. It then comes back with clarification. So this is what it's thinking, and it is worth watching that. I then gave it my teaching slides. This is what I've taught them. So in other words, this is what the students should know. And then I also uploaded writing frames, help sheets, and an example past assignment. Again, it's just the more information you load into this, the better. Now, that's actually quite a substantial piece of information, but you can see I have familiar tokens, and this includes full of 28 assignments, on average 12 pages each. I've also gone up, and I'm still only at 150,000 totals. So it's well within its capacity to deal with. So, having done that, okay, and then, so that's all the sporting materials, it clarifies and feeds back, and then this is the first essay that I've given it. Now, how I've done this was these are all the Google documents in Classroom. So, I have gone into Google Classroom. Yeah, pause off. I've gone into my Google Classroom. And here's my class. And under classwork. And then, where's it gone? Up here, there's a class drive folder. I can go into the class drive folder, and there's a folder for every assignment that I have set. So I can go down and say, right, well, the P1 assignment, there you go. There's the P1 assignment, roles and skills. So that's the formal assessment that I am now assessing. And here they all are, sadly with their names on. Well, I don't always give them the names. So what I do is I go through and I just make a copy of each one. And they are named copy of whatever. If I copy all of them, and I have a whole stack nicely alphabetically sorted for me, say copy of. I select them all, and I now move them to my own drive. To upload folders into AI Studio, they have to be your Google Drive. And anything you upload from your Windows will also get dumped into your Google Drive. So just watch the amount of space that this could take up. You got 100 gigabytes, which should be enough, but just watch how much space this is going to take up. So anyway, I have now copied all of those into my drive. You go, my drive, in consultants, exercises, and here they are, which also means I can then rename them. I just give them numbers. And if I number them in the same order that they are alphabetically named, then I've got a one-to-one correspondence. So I can look at this thing and then I can allocate them up into Classroom with my 2 screens. The one thing you've got to watch out, and I got caught out for this, somebody had put their name in a header. And so you might just need to watch that they haven't put their names in the document. Typically they don't, but you just need to watch that one. So I can now, in here, basically say, here's the first student. I click the button,
I upload the file from Google Drive, and this gives us overall impression, strengths, weaknesses, an assessment. Okay, now in this case, again, I haven't been clear. I either wanted it to assess this for a pass and ended up assessing it for pass merit section, which was in there. But it has to be right, except that the section isn't a clickable outlet. So yes, that's worked that out, which is useful. Yes. So, and you can then have recommended grade. Okay, I'm not quite sure about how to mark this. This gives me a steer. I can use that with my colleagues. And then feedback for improvement. Well, for this grid, copy, paste into. That's that one got. There you go. P1 skills. It's like having now into here. That's Mr. Watcher. I can then go paste it into private comment. Here's your feedbacks. And that's the bit that actually not so much saves time, but they are getting much more better quality feedback through the AI than I might have time to do myself. And quicker it was. Much quicker.
You know, these have some feedback. Looks good.
Yes. Yep. You know, you can always stick that in as a prompt. Make sure your feedback is for a, reading age of 16. I always put the reading age low. It's more important for me that they understand something like that one. I get them big P3 words and level 3 words. And so I managed to get all of that, all of the P1s marked with feedback. And I changed some of the marks. You can also, let's see if I can get that, get to a point. I find it starts off quite good. And then after a while, it's sort of veered off in a direction. And I find its marks are getting further and further away from where I thought they should be. And so at some point, shoot with a 6, that's 8. At some point, okay, let's take a break and talk about this. Whilst I read the students' route very well, some of all the aspects, they haven't touched base all the headings of the writing frame. In particular, was missing these headings. Okay, now, if they killed the headings in the writing frame, I expect the headings in the actual document. That's why I do it. So if they're missing headings, as far as they have blocks. Read the flipping writing frame. Okay, now, AI had said the student had passed. I go, no, it hasn't. And this is why I think it hasn't. In which case, do you think these aspects govern the rest of the text? No, you're absolutely right. Got carried away. So you do sometimes need to just correct it, just to bring it back in line. Don't assume once you've got it all set up and the first one works, that the rest are all going to work. You still retain your responsibility for your marking, your students, and to make sure it's getting right. There's another one where the students have included quite a lot of screenshots. And yeah, I'll say, oh, they haven't done such and such. I was going, yes, they have hits in screenshots. So they go, all right, okay, I'll take more time to analyze the screenshots. Okay, so it's good. It's not perfect, but I do find it really, really helpful. And like I say, the students now get fuller, better feedback than perhaps I'll be able to have time to give. Doesn't stop me adding my own feedback, of course, but the students are getting better also. Okay. Okay, so again, the prompts are important. Give it as much as you can. Give it the scheme of learning. Give it the mark scheme. Give it the success criteria. Give it your teaching materials. And the more it has, the better a job it will do. And if you don't agree with it, challenge it. Teach it. This is how you're supposed to mark it. And actually, you end up with a conversation where it's teaching me and I'm teaching it. And that works quite well. Okay, so we've got 5 minutes. Was there anything else? Yeah, I don't think we're gonna have time to do that. I will try and I'll try and do a video of one little stranding thing and stick it up on the learning center at some point in the next few weeks. Okay, do one three thing that I was going to do is all Spy. So I go in session is essentially if you upload your own Spy deck, and you upload that, and then say, Greekist, look at this lesson outline and how I produce it. And then you say, well, actually, now I'm teaching this different topic. Could you produce it in the same style that I usually like produce my resources? It's really good at producing a skeleton for your own lessons and a skeleton for your own slides. So it's the slide deck that you're producing, that could just be a quick time to win, but we haven't really got much time to get all that. We can bring the end of that, which is all on here.
The other one that I've really had, you know, the 9-10 GCSEs, quite often they have an exam and they say, oh, can we have the lesson before for revision? And I had 30 students for a lessons revision all of a sudden, about an hour to spend. So I quickly launched the AI and say, right, Derek, you are a dynamic expert teacher. Plan a 1 hour, fast-paced, well-timed revision session. And it basically gave me the idea of giving all the students a piece of paper with the main topics in the center, and then say, right, 2 minutes, mind map as much of that topic as you can. Move on. Now, you've got some mind maps, add to it, add detail, move on. And that worked well because the expert students could fill out the mind map, which didn't recall. The less expert students were getting a mind map with all the information they didn't know. And were getting that refreshed, but then they could fit in what they did know. And we just did that about half an hour, and then I moved on and did something else. So just generating ideas, really creative ideas like that could work really well. Fabulous. So that's all fun.
Well, thank you. Thanks for coming along. If you got any questions, we'll stick around for a bit. But thank you very much for attending the session. Appreciate it. Thank you. I don't look that. That won't give me. That won't give me.